Voice of the Sea, learning from experts across the ocean.
Welcome to Voice of the Sea.
This time on Voice of the Sea,
Kanisa visits the scientific research vessel Tara as it docks in Honolulu to change crew. We'll meet some crew members and learn about their amazing work.
So tell me what it's like cooking aboard the Tara.
It's a very interesting experience because I get to meet scientists, and I mean, in terms of difficulty of walking on the boat, it's alright because she's quite big, so she doesn't move that much, so it's not so difficult. But the things that we leave for we go sailing for some long legs, so we have to get organized. So when we stop at the harbor, we're really busy to get all the food we need for a month, for example. And we can't forget anything, otherwise we're a bit stuck in the middle of nowhere.
No grocery stores.
No.
I guess I'd like to know a number of things. How do you plan so that you're feeding everybody a nutritious diet?
It's quite simple. All the meals are very simple. You know, it's like cooking for a big family. So there is nothing fancy, but we still try to get as much fresh vegetables and fruits as possible during the whole leg. So the best is if at the end we still have some fresh things to eat and not just rice or pasta. So we have to get a bit organized, but every time we stop at the harbor, it's a new place, so we have to to find what's available, you know, in the different countries we stop. So it's quite interesting because we get to meet what's going to grow right now, you know, in this place. Like I guess here we could find some very nice exotic fruits. So we have to deal with all that.
Have you ever bought something to cook and you weren't sure how to make it?
No, because I try to keep the things simple for myself and not to get too much pressure about cooking stuff I'm not going to use. So.
What is your favorite kind of food to make?
I like to make dessert, like cakes, stuff like that, because it's it's something people like to eat after the meal, just for the pleasure of eating something sweet, for example. So.
And did you train as a chef before?
No, not at all. No. I'm a yacht designer.
Really?
So yeah. And what I like is to be on the water, so as a crew. And I had the opportunity to come here and work as a cook, and I did it before for other boats. So. That's still a challenge every day, but it's fun. It's a good experience.
I imagine, from experience, that eating on boats is often the best part of the day.
Yeah, it's quite important. Yeah, it's quite important. Okay.
Can you just show me around the kitchen and kind of how things are organized?
Yeah, well, the things that we need to keep all the plates and glasses as safe as possible. So it's why we've got this type of layout for the kitchen, so that it's not going to fall out when the boat heels.
Sure. And
same thing, we've got lockers everywhere. So if you forget them, then it's going to open. So we can't leave, like this knife, we couldn't leave it out if we were sailing, otherwise it's too dangerous. So, but it's not moving that much either. We've got, it's like normal kitchen with an oven, a stove, fridge, microwave. Because the boat is quite big, we're able to have quite a lot of power, so we can use the microwave sometimes, or the boiler. So it's quite. It's not too difficult to cook here because we've got all what we need. The thing that we have to not to waste too much water, so we have to to take care of the water, because The engineer is in charge of producing the water from the salt water, so we can't waste it that much. So when people wash the dishes, they have to be careful of not letting run the tap, otherwise it's...
So one of the things I noticed about the boat is that everybody shares jobs.
Yes.
Do people help you cook?
Not really, but I'm in charge of organizing the task during the day. Like every person is in charge of a task on board the boat for everybody. So like washing the dishes or serving the food or cleaning the toilets and the boat. So that's so I have to remind people every day, like to make sure they're doing their task. So there is a big scale in the middle there in the crew mess, and they have to follow every day what they have to do.
I guess I'm curious to ask you, as the coordinator for the Tara, how often that you're on board the legs and sort of what do you do?
How often? I never sailed a boat since the beginning of this project, Tara Oceans.
So you didn't just finish a leg?
No, I never sailed. I come out stopovers, but I never spent time on board sailing and doing the scientific work. I had no time so far. Now that the boat is so far from Europe, I come every 3 months or 4 months.
And what is it that you do while you're here?
It's good to see the boys. Usually they spend time to tell me what's wrong and what has to be improved. And also very important to see the state of the boat, the vessel. And very often we have officials coming on board and contacts and all the scientists that I want to get in touch with. So we come here, we talk to the press, try to raise the message, raise awareness on what we do, and why we do it.
And so what is it that you do and why
So
do
the
you
foundation, Tara Foundation, is the French and also the US foundation. There is 2 entities. It's a US and 501c3 foundation. And the goal is to help science, going on the field, doing science. And also we spend a lot of energy to explain and outreach, to education stuff for kids. Try to raise awareness on the state of the ocean, on the state of our knowledge as a human being of this particular environment, and also the fact that we don't have a clue of what's going on, basically. No, I'm not a scientist. I'm a scientist by training, but I'm not a scientist, a PhD. I just stopped before the PhD. And I am discussing with all these scientific around the world, even in Hawaii. They all agree to say that they don't have a clue what's going on in the ocean, how it works, interactions. When you talk about the global thing, it's very hard to catch up the big story, big pictures. And I have the feeling that in people's mind, we all know there's no more secrets. We all know everything, we know how it works, and it's not true. People need to understand that and to do something, to act, to be careful, to care about ocean. You need to understand what's going on. I mean, to understand the system, you need to catch the story. You need to know the weaknesses. That's why we try to explain.
How is the Tara with it's a relatively small boat, even for research boats it's relatively small, and so how do you hope to add to that on this small of a boat?
You think it's a global effort. It's not one team going to find the story and get the answers. That's not at all the story. It's a global effort from you guys in USA and many other developed countries. There's efforts to go out at sea and to study. And I have to say as well that the size of the boat is not going with the size of the science we do. It's a small boat, big science. And I'm seeing that it's going to be more and more used like that. I mean, people will start to think about differently about research vessels because the costs are huge. The budget for science is far decreasing everywhere in the world. And so we had to find alternatives. And this kind of boats is an alternative, and we proved it since 2 years now. It works very well. The approach is very multidisciplinary. This is very rare. Usually on vessels, scientists come on board, they do their stuff, they take their samples and they go back home.
Right.
On this boat, they come on board. All the work is collaborative innovation, I would say, collaborative work. And all the samples will go in the pipeline for everyone. It's not one by one studies. It's a global study of the ecosystem, the planktonic ecosystems, related to the environment data.
It seems to me that part of the reason you're able to have this global approach from maybe a small boat is in part the time you're spending 3 years, and then in part the fact that every time you come to a port, you're packaging up all of the samples and the information, and then you're sending them, like you said, not just to one lab, but all around the world for people to
study
look at.
Ocean is our future. I mean, it's our next generation prosperity in terms of new things to found, new molecules to find for the disease we have as a human being. Many drugs are getting out of the ocean today, and they're going to be huge more because we don't know 95% of what's the microbiology of the ocean. So you can expect to have huge potential of drugs for the human being. It's also a fantastic potential for bioenergy, blue energy, biofuel with algae, mechanic energy with waves and streams, and so there is thousands of things to find in the ocean. Even food is going to be. Today we have a huge problem as humanity. We are completely emptying the sea of the fisheries. Fish too much. So we need to find ways to fish less, or we need to find something else to replace the proteins from the fish by plankton, maybe. Maybe you don't know, but maybe tomorrow we're gonna have plankton cakes. You can expect to have planktons in your plate, square planktons, paste. Why not? I mean, the proteins are there. It's huge. It's the biggest biomass production on Earth. Is a plankton. It's a small marine organisms. So that's the good story, I think, and that's really what it's encouraging to find, is to go there, study, find solutions, find new developments.
New ways, I imagine, of organisms interacting that we didn't know about.
We don't know 95% of what's living in the ocean. We don't know how it behaves, what the metabolism, how they protect themselves against disease, against viruses, we don't know. So if you don't know, you can expect that there's a huge potential for industrial application, for everything. But yeah, there's also a fact that all this, if you look at the planet, the surface of the planet, half of this planet, 50% of the planet, is high seas, which means that it belongs to nobody and belongs to everybody, but it's high seas. It's not a country. Half of our planet is not managed today. You can do whatever you want. You can fish how much you want in the high seas. You can take what you want. You can also drill if you ask the permit for it, and they will give you the permit anyway. So this potential we are talking about is also endangered by this governance, the way we govern, the way we protect, and the way we manage this ocean in a sustainable way. That's one of the stakes of the humanity, I would say, in the next 20 years.
I want to ask you about the name of the Tara Oceans expedition. So in the United States, we have the Ocean Literacy Principles, which are, one of them is that there's just one ocean and that we are all connected. So why in your name do you have the oceans, plural?
Because we launched this expedition with the route of the expedition has been made to pass through, originally to pass through all the oceans. So we put an S, and why? I don't know. But now we don't go anymore in the Arctic Ocean because we had to shorten the trip. So we could not say ocean because we won't go everywhere. But I agree with you that as we speak now for ocean governance, we talk about ocean and not oceans, because the problem is a global problem, global it's a global file, it's a global issue.
And what about TARA? What does that stand
TARA. You know, Gone with the Wind?
for? Yes.
So the owner of the boat, back in the 60s, when he bought the boat, he was in love. He loved this movie with Scarlett O'Hara and this farm named Tara. You always come back. So he started to name his boat Tara. This is the grandfather. And then there was 3 Tara with him, and then this is number 5, Tara 5. At the beginning it was a small boat, it's like 10 meters boat, 30 foot boat. And
Wow.
now it's the same story, and we changed the name, keep the name. And it's a nice word, 4 letters. You can tell it in every language, and it have a meaning in almost every language. In Maori, in New Zealand, it means that. I can't remember. It's I think the highest mountain, Tara. There's meanings everywhere. In India, it's a god. It's a deess. It's a god. It's funny. It's a beautiful name, no?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay.
Is there something else that you think would be important to talk about that would
I don't know. We were really open to collaborate with other NGOs and other efforts. Because everything that is done on board is a non-profit. I mean, the data will be for all the scientific community, and there's nothing is going to be licensed by the foundation. It's not the idea is to just provide access to the ocean for the scientists at the zero cost, because it's privately funded. So I mean that because there is many movement in US, the Sea Alliance, Mission Blue, One World Ocean, many movement on ocean conservation today to raise the surface of marine protected area to 10%. Maybe it's not enough, 20% would be better. Although we are French and European, the idea is really to collaborate with all the people and try to find ways to collaborate in an intelligible manner, I mean, a clever manner. It's not competition at all. It's really try to share knowledge, share experience on what we have on the boats, how we did it, outreach, mediation, everything. That's really our open-minded view. Important.
And so as part of that idea to collaborate, you might imagine like to help other people do a similar type of project.
Yeah. Once we're going to be funded on a long-term basis, today it's not the case. The idea is to help other smaller boats to fulfill some commitments with scientists. Sometimes they need to do a very precise thing that you can do on a 50-foot boat very well. You don't need to go. You need to go 3 weeks on a cruise and have only half a day of the ship for you, and then the rest for the rest. It's not very efficient. There's many things we cannot do with this boat, but there's many things we can do. So we just have to find to use the proper tools for each work.
Well, from what I've seen, it's very beautiful. It's
crowded.
elegant.
Well, actually, I'm the chief engineer on this leg. So I'm in charge of the engines, of course, and the generators. So here you are in the workshop. All the tools are here. So we have 2 main engines, and we have for the electricity on board we have 3 generators. And it can be dirty, and I'm working on the engine right now, so it's quite a mess. are the two 350 horsepower engines. In the middle you have a purifier for the diesel oil. This is a gearbox, and I mean that's the main. I'm working here. Here when the engines are running, it's very noisy, very hot.
So how did you come to work on boat engines or be here on the Tara?
Well, actually, I'm a merchant marine officer. So I used to work on big container ships in a French company, and I also worked after this. I work on a big French research vessel.
My watch is mostly at night between midnight and 4. The captain is doing 4 to 12, and then noon to 7 in the afternoon. That is the captain, and sometimes the chief engineer. We have one computer to follow all the navigations. So that's very easy for us now because everything is got on the computer. All the charts, GPS are connected, and so it's like TV basically, just watching. And then we have like basic marine instruments like VHF to communicate. We have another one emergency, radio. All the light of the boats, steering pump for the pilots. That's all the all the stuff to control the engine temperature, oil temperature, smoke temperature, and pressure. So both engine, that's the automatic pilots, very, very important on board. The radar, we have 2 radars, one here also, and 3 GPSs. One other radio, it's different frequencies. This one is a short one, this one is a long one. And also satellite phone. And that's the engine command, the Shadburn. And that's different depth sounder. We have one for the boat, which is very accurate to when you're in deep water. Another one when we are like close to the harbor, because we don't need to have like 500 meters depth. And the third one is meant for science. Like example, when you put a net or a CTD in the water, the scientists want a precise depth, like I don't know, 400 meters. And so for that we need to, of course, know where it is, because the cables is not going straight down, but sometimes with an angle. So we plug a depth sounder with another one here, and we have all this information with this one.
How does your autopilot work?
Well, it's very basic. It's like a car, I guess. Starboard, port. That's right, left. Then we have different setting, like depend on the weather. Because if you doing too much, I would say, when the sea is very rough, we don't need something very nervous, doing something soft, but like that. And when it's slack or like a lake of wind, we can have something more accurate. Or we don't need, it's made to not to use too much the pump of the pilots and hydraulic stuff. And also for the waves and all that stuff, you can set all your pilots with the forecasts, the conditions.
So you put in a heading and then you tell it what the kind of weather is.
There is, yeah.
Drives
You just put a heading with like auto, that's done, and then depending on the weather, you just set the rudder angles.
So how much of the time are you actually steering the boat then?
In 1 month, probably 5 minutes.
Whoa.
Yeah, we don't use it because it's a heavy boat, and for one port you don't feel anything. You know, it's like a big truck or lorry, so you have no sensations.
But to come into port like this, you steered yourself, or?
Yeah, well, on any boats, when it starts to be a bit big, you never steer by hand. You steer with that. That's the hand steering also.
Ah.
Yeah, it's called a tiller, right? So the same. It's connected to the autopilot, and it's like a joystick, and it's much faster than you. Like if you have to, you want to be parallel to your pier,
and it will be like you do give many tours, and with that you just do like that's, which is make easier, faster, and safer.
What is your favorite piece of equipment that you get to work with?
This computer makes things easier for us because we can have a quick look and we know directly where we are, where we go. We change of chart before we had to change of charts, so find them, unfold them. Now it's just a click and it's done.
Sure.
We can write some stuff erased and many stuff.
Is this your track here?
Yes. Yes, it's a track from all what we do. All this like green and can focus with it. Green spots or red spots. It's just a station like where the scientists want to be to make some samples. So we have basically like a short station. This between 6 and 12 hours, and a long station could be 2 days. It's night and days. And they wanted to make some samples on this flag, very close to equator. So we did like 5 degrees south equator, 5 degrees north.
So this used to be a cabin, and it was sacrificed for science. There's many things in here you can sort of see. Obviously, this is the microscope I was talking about in the pictures. There's a fancy microscope. We collect surface water 24/7. So we have some instruments. There are 3 of these things here that are taking surface measurements all day, every day. This is, I think it's called the Curie. I think it's like a particle counter. I'm not sure. It does a lot of analysis on particle sizes and stuff. This is a flow cam, so it's also a plankton. It takes pictures of plankton. It's an automated system. So there's a lot of gear in here. It's usually a very popular place because it's one of the few places with air conditioning.
And that is for the equipment?
Yes, exactly. That's me down in the corner.
Oh, wow.
When I had the interview for this job, I came to see the boat, and when I saw this I thought, shh, it's tiny. But in fact, you know, I'm so lucky. There's only me and the captain that have our own offices.
Oh, wow.
This is my world.
This is so cool.
So this actually is talking at the moment to the camera system. So this is data coming through. I told you I'm going to be doing some tests and stuff. So all these cables, these are deck units for controls and charging units and stuff like that. These are all the cables, and they get through the boat and they go out on deck, so I can talk to the CTD directly and some of the instruments that need talking to and the batteries and stuff like that. This expedition's one of the things that's different about this expedition is that we have no home port. We don't go home. We're away for 2.5 years. So all the things like maintenance and calibrations and cleanings, the things that normally you leave until you go home, we have to do as we go along. So at the end of a leg, when we come into port, there's a whole bunch of stuff, you know, maintenance and servicing and just checks and balances and all that kind of thing.
After its epic odyssey through the Arctic ice floe, the schooner Tara continues on its mission to serve the planet. A century after Cook, Darwin and Haeckel, a team of scientists take off on an expedition to explore life hidden under the surface of the oceans. An exceptional 3-year journey across the world's seas to understand the impact of the oceans in the future of our planet. A strange and fascinating microscopic world lives under the ocean's skin, made up of millions of species, most of them unknown to man, but whose role is vital. The sea water's secret inhabitants are called plankton.
This is an extremely complex world, very dynamic, that we are beginning to define.
From seas to oceans, Tara will explore the submarine canopies and their millions of microscopic algae. This plant-like plankton, phytoplankton, produces half of the Earth's oxygen. Its role is key to the planet's climate. Exploration which will reveal an invisible animal world of infinite diversity, that of the zooplankton.
I'm certain that 98% of these organisms are unheard of.
Atlantic, Mediterranean, Indian Ocean. Every time we probe the depths, precious samples of marine life will enrich our hold.
What we are leaving to future generations are excellent quality samples.
From Barcelona to Beirut, passing through Libya, and soon the shores of Africa, we will sound the oceans, we will probe their secrets. This journey to the heart of the oceans will plunge us into worlds teeming with life made up of algae, crustaceans, medusas, and into the even stranger world of bacteria and viruses. Who are these secret inhabitants? What are its powers? What can we learn about this marine world in link with the global warming of our planet? Teachings useful to mankind? These are the challenges of this historically unique expedition, the new Tara expedition, Tara Oceans.
Voice of the Sea, learning from experts across the ocean.
Turn your love of the ocean into a lifelong career. Join NOAA, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, as we unlock the secrets in the deep oceans, track rapidly moving storms, model climate trends, protect and preserve our marine resources, and so much more. It's all in a day's work at NOAA. Find a career that makes a world of difference, enriching life through science, service, and stewardship. NOAA.
The Curriculum Research and Development Group in the College of Education at the University of Hawaii at Manoa. CRDG has been providing quality educational programs and services for over 40 years, serving students, teachers, parents, educators, and experts around the world and here in Hawaii. The Curriculum Research and Development Group, improving schools, improving education. CRDG.
The University of Hawaii's Sea Grant College program, focused on Hawaii's coasts and its communities through sustainable development, safe seafood supply, sustainable coastal tourism, hazard resilience, and healthy coastal ecosystems. Hawaii's Sea Grant.
Exploring Our Fluid Earth is a dynamic curriculum developed by the University of Hawaii's Curriculum Research and Development Group, teaching ocean science concepts through the disciplines of physics, chemistry, biology, and ecology. Exploring Our Fluid Earth is now available freely online. Find out more at exploringourfluidearth.org.